Dr. Avi Loeb, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. Awesome. Well, hey, if we can get into a little bit, what's the latest on 3i Atlas since our last
Well,
discussion?
there are lots of developments over the past week. It passed perihelion, meaning closest approach to the sun, on October 29th. That's when this object 3i Atlas was within a distance of 203 million kilometers from the sun. It received about 770 watts of solar irradiation power per square meter. So that's the point in its path where it gets heated the most. And indeed, there was a detection of it getting quite bright, much brighter than before, by a factor of 5 or so, by various solar observatories that looked at it, even though it was hidden from view from Earth, because the Earth was on the opposite side of the sun when it was closest to the sun. Maybe for a good reason. It's not clear whether it's natural or technological. But at any event, these observatories noticed that it became bluer than the sun, which is quite unusual because usually comets shed the dust that makes them red, or they have a surface temperature that is much cooler than the surface temperature of the sun, and therefore they appear redder than the sun. And nevertheless, 3i Atlas became bluer than the sun, which is surprising. But most interestingly, there was a deviation from the trajectory that it should have taken if its path was shaped by gravity alone. So there was some non-gravitational acceleration that it exhibited. If it's a natural comet, that is a consequence of it getting evaporated. And I did a simple calculation that showed that it must have lost at least a tenth of its mass in that process in order to get the reported level of acceleration. And that is a substantial fraction of its mass. It's most likely even 20%. That's just a lower limit. And that means that if it's a natural comet, there should be a very massive cloud of gas around it. And we are starting to get now new images of 3i Atlas. And if it were a familiar comet with the characteristics of a comet where it sheds dust and gas, that dust and gas should have been swept backwards away from the sun by the solar radiation and the solar wind. However, those images that were just released today, they don't show a cometary tail. They just show a blob of light, a fuzz of light around it, the way we saw when it was far away from the sun. And so the question is, what is this object? Why is it behaving so differently than solar system comets? I put in my latest essay, just for comparison, the image from the same telescope that observed it today. 2 days ago, it looked at a solar system comet named Lemon. And for Lemon, you can easily see a beautiful cometary tail being, pointing away from the sun. In the case of 3i Atlas, nothing of that nature. And so it's still, it's still anomalous in some ways. And, before the anomalies that captured my interest were that it appeared to be big, at least 1 million times more massive than the first interstellar object from outside the solar system. And moreover, it was going in the plane of the planets around the sun. So perhaps that trajectory was designed by some intelligence. That was my thinking. And since then, we noticed that, it sheds a lot of nickel, but very little iron, which is unusual, anomalous. And the only other place where we find that is in industrial production of nickel alloys. So maybe that's a technological signature. It showed unusual polarization. It came from the same direction as the WOW signal that was discovered in 1977, a radio signal that is still enigmatic. We don't know what the source is, but they were within 9 degrees of each other and question is, were they related? Was this signal related to 3A Atlas in any way? So there are lots of anomalies. I listed about 10 of them by now, but we still don't know. I mean, my point is that it should just make us curious, and in the coming weeks we should be able to figure out the nature of the object, because it will get closest to Earth on December 19th. That's 6 days before Christmas, and my hope is that we will not receive an unwanted gift for Christmas, for the holidays, because the last thing we want is for it to send probes to planets like the Earth.
Oy. I know, like Kim Kardashian, that has gotten some traction. Professor has commented on this. You have also briefed members of Congress too.
Right.
And I'm just kind of curious, like when you're briefing them, and frankly, some of them are not big believers in science. And so what are you telling them? And what is their reaction to what you're telling them? And also, it is my understanding too that no rocket from Earth is fast enough to reach this thing. So, are we screwed?
Well, let me answer your first question first. So I'm talking with them about science, because that is the best way for us to gain new knowledge. We should pay attention to evidence, to data that is collected by instruments, because if we believe stories that people tell us, they're all over the place. And when there is a car accident, different people give you different reports. You can't believe what people are telling you, stories and so forth. And the best path forward is actually collecting data with instruments. That's the scientific method. And then whatever the data shows must be the truth, and once you have enough data, it's like a detective story. And, when the Vatican refused to look through Galileo's telescope, that was a big mistake, because they had to correct that mistake in 1992, and they admitted that he was right. So ignoring data is not a good practice, because, whether we move around the sun or the sun moves around the Earth, it's not up to people to tell us. It's whatever is out there, and we should collect data and the Earth moved around the sun 4.5 billion times before the Vatican even existed. So just denying that is not a good practice. You want to check the data and figure out what is really the case. If we have a neighbor or not, that doesn't depend on what is the popular view on social media. It really, the neighbor would exist irrespective of what people say. Yeah. So we just need to attend to that. So I basically try to explain what we know and what the anomalies are. And I must say, I'm very impressed by, for example, Representative Anna Paulina Luna. She's very curious and willing to help science forward. And today she met with officials of NASA and promised that the latest highest resolution image obtained by the high-rise camera from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter would eventually be shared with the public. And it's just a bureaucratic matter that it was not shared over the past month because of the government shutdown. And she's doing the best to promote the scientific method as far as I can tell. So I can say that my experience so far with members of Congress was very positive, and I resonate with their curiosity, and they recognize the fact that getting better data is the best path for us to figure out things. Now to answer your last question.
Last question, yes.
Yeah, just to answer the last question, indeed,
are we screwed? That's the question.
It's a great question.
Yes, if we are visited by a technological civilization that has developed better technologies than we possess. For example, this object, 3A Atlas, is moving 3 times faster than our fastest rocket, and it's 50 times bigger in size than the Starship rocket. So obviously we can't cope with that, and yes, we are screwed if it's technological, but if we survive any such encounter, it should fill us with a sense of humility, with the fact that we do have siblings in our family of intelligent civilizations, and they are more accomplished than we are, but that should inspire us to do better, not to feel jealous about them. And hopefully we will not encounter a serial killer on their side. That's my hope on this blind date, you know.
Wow. Wow. Yes, we're screwed if that
hopefully it stops, right? Like hopefully it, I don't know.
No,
Hopefully
I
it
mean,
just doesn't run into us.
Yeah.
the best thing to hope for is that it's just a rock, an icy rock that happened to be just by coincidence flying in the plane of the planets around the sun, that happens to be big by chance, that shows all these anomalies because it was made in an environment, natural environment that is very different than what we are familiar with. You know, that would be the best, and then it will just pass by and nothing will happen. But we always have to contemplate a low probability that an interstellar object might be technological, because the implications are huge. And you know, that's always done by the intelligence agencies. They consider low likelihood events. For example, in the context of terrorist attacks or things like that, even though they never materialize, most of these events, they have to have a contingency plan, a protocol to attend to the data if it looks anomalous, just to make sure.
We had covered the DART mission, and so, you know, that was involving was it the asteroid that was coming our way?
Yes.
And so it was the asteroid that was coming our way, and there was a really fascinating mission, and
slammed into it.
and right, and I believe it was led by NASA at the time. It
Yes.
wasn't too
Yes.
long ago, and
Right.
it was, I mean, it was like way to go. I mean, it was like perfect. NASA led the mission, and they ended up shooting something at the asteroid that was coming towards Earth. It worked. It was a successful mission. So is that maybe potentially possible? I don't know, but you said that whatever this is, the 3I Atlas, is absolutely huge, and it is extremely fast right now. So could that maybe potentially be a possibility? I don't know.
Well, in principle, yes. There is a Juno spacecraft orbiting Jupiter right now. If it carried all the fuel that it started with, I published a paper showing that it could have intercepted 3I Atlas on March 16th, 2026. Just because of the advance warning, it could have moved to place such that it would cross its path and could have collided with it in the same way the DART mission did. But unfortunately, Juno used most of its fuel. So currently, we just don't have a spacecraft that can do that. But in the future, what we can do is, if we decide that we want to intercept interstellar objects, either to explore them or to defend Earth, then first of all, we should deploy a set of sensors that alert us to incoming interstellar objects. And then, of course, we can have a set of interceptors that would meet them. And as of now, we don't have a NASA spacecraft that is designed for that purpose. But I think in the future, especially if we recognize that there is a potential threat to Earth, or we recognize that it's an opportunity to collect a sample of material from such an object. Because, for example, we can look for the building blocks of life around another star. So it offers a whole new set of opportunities. It would take us millions to billions of years to go to another star, retrieve materials, and bring it back to Earth. Here, we have something that made already the journey for millions to billions of years. So we can take advantage of that because it is in our backyard, and it's much less expensive. We need much less time to bring that sample. And that is a sample of material from another star far away, thousands of light years away. So that's an amazing opportunity for the future. And of course, if we ever notice a technological object, then we will consider it as defending planet Earth. In the past, we thought of defending it against rocks, which follow a predictable path. Technological gadgets can maneuver, they can have a different intent than we imagine. So it will be more complicated, but we will need a defense system to protect us from unwanted visitors in the future if we ever find that one of these interstellar objects is indeed technological.
Avi, I wanted to ask you also with Congresswoman Luna, who has been really the champion to look at also the topic of unidentified anomalous phenomenon, UAP, instead of UFOs now. But with the Defense Authorization Act that when I believe in 2022, there was an office, Arrow, that was created, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, for whistleblowers in the government that might have information related to UAP and also to government programs, to be an office where they could investigate those claims and to somehow answer the questions of Congress and be a little more transparent than what we're used to. I want to ask you, with your involvement with Congresswoman Luna, with also this topic, do you feel like we are closer to having the environment where these whistleblowers can come forward and testify and shed some light on really what's going on, what these are that really have been popping up so much in the last decade?
Yes, some of these whistleblowers already came forward in congressional hearings. In fact, 6 months ago, I visited Arrow, and I spoke with the leaders of that office in the Pentagon, and they told me, I asked them, do you have any clear evidence for something extraterrestrial among the objects that were documented by military personnel? And they said, nothing that we can definitely identify as extraterrestrial. There were some reports by FBI agents that were not verified by data from instruments. So at the moment, they didn't really produce any clear evidence for something unusual, but there are also claims that they are not motivated to reveal that this is kept classified. Any such information is kept classified. And I don't know who to believe on that because I haven't been exposed to any information within government that is of great interest regarding things outside the solar system. Frankly, if they do have such information and they keep it classified, that's inappropriate because their jurisdiction is to deal with national security, not with anything outside the solar system. That's my job description as an astronomer. So my hope is that if they do have something, eventually they'll get to me or scientists like myself. But in the meantime, I'm leading the Galileo project. We have 3 observatories that are operating right now. The latest one was constructed in Las Vegas. I mentioned it on the Joe Rogan show just a week ago. And we're trying to collect data by looking at the sky and checking if there is anything that is operating beyond the performance envelope of human-made technologies. And if we don't find anything, so be it. And I'm happy to provide all the everything we learned by developing the sensors and the machine learning software to the Department of War so they can use it in order to defend the nation. So it will not be wasted, this effort, the scientific effort that I'm working on with the Galileo project.
Well, it's a lot to digest.
Lot to take in for
A
your
lot-
first
a lot to
time talking to
take
Dr.
in.
Loeb. Yeah.